land bank. The Ohio law changed that bigger counties like Cuyahoga County, Franklin County, they got allowed to do these land banks back in 2008, which gave them funding to go through to different neighborhoods that may be dilapidated homes or something that may be in trouble, and they could wipe out and they could buy that ground, they could use those funds to restore that neighborhood. Well, counties the size of Logan were not allowed to do it until recently. I don't remember the exact year, maybe a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, they said counties our size can now form land banks. Well, why? So something you should know, counties just can't do whatever we want. The Ohio Revised Code has to give us the authority to do it. Different than a city. A city has a lot more home rules and things they can do. The county, our abilities and our powers have to come from the code. So they changed the code and said, hey, counties that are small, you now can form land banks. So the three of us got with the treasurer and we formed a land bank. So I want to share with you what's the responsibilities and the goals of a land bank since it's new, who are the members of the land bank, where does it get its funding, what's the pipeline of properties that are going to go in that land bank, how's the foreclosure process work, and an example of a property that I just looked up today that I think is going to be a great candidate for that. So kind of the first thing, and part of if I use my notes, it's new to me too, so I don't want to tell you the wrong thing. The goal is, like I mentioned, is to find vacant land, dilapidated residential properties, commercial properties that may be completely vacant and the owner of that property is gone and it has continued to pile up in taxes. So the goal of the land bank looks at those first to say, how can we return that? So that's kind of our first responsibility. But the power and what makes the land bank so special is that the land bank by the code can go in and seize that property and clear the title of all back taxes, fees, assessments, all of those charges. If you remember the normal process, we all know what a sheriff's sale is. Something goes, it gets foreclosed, and then it goes to a sheriff's sale. Well, our goal is not to supersede that process, because if it goes to the sheriff's sale, those back taxes are paid. But there is an occasion where the back taxes are owed so much on the property that at sheriff's sale, the value, you're never going to get that amount for what they have to sell it for. That's where the land bank can come in and wipe that. It speeds the process up. Otherwise, we have to wait months, potentially years, for it to go to the next layer, will be an auditor sale, which is, let's just sell it for whatever we can get. This process will allow the land bank to supersede that, to speed that process up, and to wipe those taxes out. We've never had that ability before. The other thing, why it's so important, why do you care if we have a land bank? Well, let's say you live on a street, and there's 3 vacant houses on them, and the property is deteriorating, the grass is growing up. What does that do to the value of your property? That's why it's so essential to speed that process up, to get those properties returned to responsible owners, to retain and protect your values. And also so we can get some tax dollars flowing in on that property again. The plan that we anticipate using is going to be a property by property approach. Some of the bigger counties, you'll say they'll mark a region or a spot in a city, or they'll mark an area in a township and say, we've targeted this area, we're going to be looking for properties to purchase in that area, or we're going to target that area. We don't have that type of situation like Detroit, for example. If you've flown over an airplane in Detroit, there's literally city blocks that have been wiped out. Fortunately, we don't have that problem here, but we do have this property here and this property here that we need to focus on. So we're going to do a property by property approach. The other thing that's available for land banks, if the situation arises, I think we're open to it, is potentially rehabbing properties. Rather than just tearing them down, maybe there's potential that the land bank could put a little bit of money into that property, that we could get more value out of it. So that's kind of the responsibilities and the overview of the land bank. Well, who's going to be making these decisions? Well, the statute lays out who are the statutory members. There's 2 county commissioners. I'm one of them, and John is the other that serve on there. Then the county treasurer, Dara Wren, is a member on there. And then we have to have a rep from the largest city. And the city has the mayor's office named Wes Dodds, who does a lot of their code enforcement, knows a lot about the properties and knows what's going on to get those. So we have Wes on there. And then there's some at-large members, and we've appointed one member to that, and it's Rick Hatcher with Citizens Federal Bank. And he helps us because he has a lot of experience in foreclosure, bank foreclosures, knows about real estate, so we thought he would be a good asset to that. Also, not serving as members, but as consultants and helping us, is the prosecutor's office has a staff member there. Well, they would be aware of what's going through the foreclosure, so we need them involved in the process, as well as the LUC Planning Commission is going to help administer this for us. So it's going to be, those are the members and the functions. Well, how do we pay for all of this? So there's multiple ways to get funding. One of the things that counties do is on the delinquent properties that pay a delinquent, there's a fee that's put on them. If you don't pay your property tax, we can collect a fee. We've directed that fee to now go to the land bank. So in this first settlement, we'll have some dollars. Probably won't be much, but it'll be some. The land bank will be able to hold those funds. The other way would be by an appropriation by the three of us, that we could put money in there with your general tax dollars to help get it going. We don't have any plan to do that right now. The best way, I think, is by the sale of these properties. If we can go in and get a property that's worth $15,000 but has $25,000 in back taxes, and we can wipe out the $25,000 and then sell it for $8,000, those $8,000 can go to the land bank to do more demolitions, to buy more properties, to do different things to really help. And the final way, which we think will be possible, is federal and state grants do come along. And the only way you can get those federal and state grants is if you have a land bank. We now do. So we will be poised and positioned to get some of those funds. So the other thing is, well, which properties are we going to decide to attack? Well, that's where the prosecutor's office and the county treasurer's office really helps us to say, hey, these we think are some low-hanging fruit. To start, what I foresee us doing on our property by property is to look for these vacant lots. Maybe you live on a street where there's a vacant lot and you know the neighbor would love to purchase that lot. It's got a little garage on it and the grass is always long. Well, we can come in and target that property, get it to the land bank, and have a buyer right away who might be willing to pay pretty good money for it. So we can build our money pretty quickly with little expense out. If you follow me, I don't have to tear down homes and things like that. The other way to get properties, as I mentioned, the foreclosure, but some owners may donate them. I can't take care of this anymore. We don't want it. It's not worth anything to our family. They may be able to donate it to the land bank. Well, we have a benefit that we can sit on that property until it gains value to sell versus, the private market may not be able to do that. So it's another benefit to that. Or finally, we can purchase properties. If there's something that looks like a strategic move for the community, for economic development, we may be able to purchase that to prevent something that we wouldn't want to go in there, but maybe something good. But it would be very unlikely that would happen. The other thing that was kind of new to me was how the foreclosure process works. I mean, if you've gotten on the auditor's website, you look at these properties and you're like, holy mackerel, how can this guy owe this much money? Why aren't they foreclosing on it? Well, I didn't get the full list, but I got a big list that's like two-sided both ways of properties that we're wanting to look at. This isn't the complete list. It's mind-boggling how much time and effort would have to go from our tax dollars to track those people down. When Bill Gosden was the prosecutor, he did some really good things by speeding that up. He sent out a letter to all these folks and said, hey, I don't want to go through this process, but if you don't pay, we're going to, and here's what we're going to do, boom, 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 boom. People started bringing checks in. So the low-hanging fruit, we had like folks writing checks for like $40,000 to get the taxes caught up. We've kind of exhausted all those. So now we're down to the next layer, the harder fruit to get to happen. And that's where I see the tax foreclosure process working, where we're going to have to target a property and say, hey, you owe $25,000 in back taxes you haven't paid since 1997. We're going to have to do something about that. So that's where I see the foreclosure happening. So how that works is the treasurer identifies and investigates a property. They then create a case file. They forward that to the prosecutor's office. The prosecutor's office reviews it, and then they can file the complaint in the common pleas court. As you can imagine, this takes several days and weeks and months to make that happen, but it does work. Then the court makes a judgment, they set a hearing, decide, and then it is sent for tax foreclosure, which then would go to sheriff's sale. It just takes a lot of time to make sure, because you've got all these folks you have to notify. Now remember, that's the abbreviated version. The prosecutor's office and the treasurer are sitting here, they'd go, Dustin, you make that sound really simple. It's actually a lot of paperwork and details, because if you're going to take a home or someone's property, you've got to make sure you've done proper notification for all that.